Yes, it's the Finnish football show. Welcome back. I'm Mark Wiltshire, joined by the full Finnish football show team this week. Hi, Keke.
Hello.
Hi, Rich.
Moi.
And hi, Mark.
Hey.
And for those of you watching the video, Mark is audio only and probably not for very long. He's got a very old phone held together by tape and connected to the World Wide Web by a piece of string. So hopefully we'll hear him, but we might not hear him for very long, and we're preserving his broadband connection. But we wanted to get together today just to kind of summarize the France game against Finland last week, the World Cup qualifier. We were really prolific through all those games, and I don't know about you guys, but I kind of ran out of steam, and it all got away from me after the France game. So we're going to do a quick roundup of that in this episode, and just share some thoughts about the whole kind of international week. I don't know about you, but I genuinely feel like 3 games in 7 days is quite an effort, and particularly you, Mark, writing previews and reports. It's like six pieces of content in as many days. How do you find it? Is it as hard work as it looks?
I mean, in a sense, it's not that hard if you think about how we approached the Wales game, because we didn't exactly have a lot to write about or a lot to talk about. So I guess I feel the same way as the Finland squad, which is that I'll put in the shift and do the work, but there's not going to be a lot of content in there. There's not going to be a lot to write home about it. So yeah, so I mean, it was all right from my side, but I think that Wales game, it did highlight that both, for what we saw on the pitch and then what we had to do afterwards. It's really hard to get people to sort of care about it.
There wasn't the biggest crowd for the Wales game, was there? It was a lot of empty seats there. But have you, Mark, got like a routine? I was talking before we came on air that I'm kind of got a routine going now. So when it comes to making these shows, the preparation, the editing, and all of that, it kind of just comes together. What about you, writing these reports and previews?
Well, I mean, for the previews, they usually take a couple of days before. You can't do them too soon or too far ahead because squad changes happen, particularly around COVID. There's a lot of that Wales squad lost about 5 players, I think the day before or 2 days before the match. But for that, I try to block a couple of hours to do my homework, and then for the match, I'm always taking notes as the game goes on, as I'm watching it, and I usually try to get everything compiled together, in the hour or so later, and then I have a bit of a nap, sleep on it when I can, and then read it again, usually the morning after, so I can have a bit of a clear head.
Because with these games, a lot of the games for Finland start at like 9:45 in the evening Finnish time. So by the time they finish, it's nearly midnight. So when we, getting that all done straight away after, it's late for us. It's a bit easier for the other two. They've got the problem of rushing home from work to get here for the start of the game or the start of the pod.
Yeah, that's how it is. So straight after the game, around about midnight or 1 o'clock, I'll finish writing up, and then when I wake up the next morning, I have to spend about an hour taking the swear words out.
So talking of swear words, Rich, what did you make of the France game? Give us a little bit of colour around the game.
I mean, as you said, the third game in a week, it was. That was the one that people were kind of looking to as the really tough one in the group, and after a very drab game against Wales on everyone's part, the Kazakhstan game showed a lot more intent, and I think going into the France game, obviously we were guilty of it, and I think a lot of people still enjoyed or living off the friendly win in Paris just under a year ago, and with all the caveats about being understrength teams on both sides and stuff. But I mean, we kind of saw at the Euros how Finland are prepared to set up against a team who are one of the best in the world when they played against Belgium, and it was back to the wall. In the France game, they didn't really do that. I think they saw that France aren't as good as Belgium, and they did have a little bit more intent. And we were talking in our WhatsApp group about how Rasmus Schuller being booked after 3 minutes clearly blunted him. I mean, he'd been very good against Kazakhstan, and that booking really seemed to knock him out of his stride. Glenn Kamara was very good as usual. Ilmari Niskanen on his debut, or on his first start anyway, was a revelation. I think it was very just that kind
Nissila.
of.
Yeah, sorry, Rich.
What did I say?
Urho Nissila.
What did I say?
Niskanen.
Oh, not him. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he didn't play.
You're thinking of the debuts last year.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still on 2020, aren't I? Ilmar. Nisila, sorry. He on his debut, he was fearless. He was so good with the ball. The way he was working with Kamara in the midfield, he looked so confident. I mean, this is the Nisila we see week in, week out for cups, and to see him against France in their own backyard really looked like they weren't expecting that. I mean, we were wondering how defensive would the midfield going to be, but
yeah, we weren't expecting that. So I'm not sure how France could have been.
But no, I mean, the two of them were really good, and I guess the only problem really was that Pukki and Poyampala were so isolated up front that they barely got a sniff. And I mean, Pukki had whatever his penalty appeal in the 90th minute or injury time, and it was difficult because the game was really settled on a couple of moments of magic from a £100 million forward who Finland just don't have. Griezmann's finishes, particularly, I mean, the first one was fantastic, beautiful stuff, and that was the difference really. But Finland played pretty well. I'm going to say the scoreline flattered either side, but they came out with a lot more intent. And after the showing against Belgium, it was nice to see Finland not be completely defensive and willing to go up against them.
Mark, maybe talk a little bit about the team, because I said at the beginning of the game that it was bold. Just talk through a little bit about the lineup and the formation.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I think as Rich sort of said, that he sprang a few surprises. We all expected Tim Sparv to come in. We all expected Joona Toivio to come back. They're experienced players that would have helped us kind of set up in the same way as we did against sort of Belgium and Denmark at the Euros, right? To just really block the play. But instead, Schuller got the nod with Nisila and Kamara. They moved the ball around really quite well. And it was Tauli Väisänen who got, Leo Väisänen. It's one of those days. So Leo Väisänen got the nod ahead of Toivio. And mainly, I think that was because he's just generally more a mobile player. In the end, I don't think it made that much difference against the quality of Griezmann. But what it did mean is that we were knocking the ball around in our own half with so much ease that the French, didn't really press. So they clocked on pretty quickly that if they were going to spend their whole game just chasing us, around that back five, back three, it was going to be a waste of their energy. So after about 5 minutes, they just dropped off and just tried to bide their time and wait for it. In possession, we looked really slick. Like Nisila, like Rich said, was really dynamic. He didn't lose the ball at all, and he kept sort of turning away from the likes of Pogba, and it just really it did frustrate the French for a fair amount of time. And we had a couple of glimpses, a couple of half chances down the left, in particular with Uronen. So I think we weren't like, I think this is an interesting thing to kind of build on that Rich said, is that we weren't like we were in the Belgium game. And if you look at how Ukraine and Bosnia-Herzegovina set up against the French, they did what we usually do, which is they sat deep, tried to block everything and kill the game, and then wait for a French mistake and counter as fast as they could. And we didn't really do that. We really did try to build a game and be a kind of a proper opponent, play football against the world champs.
Didn't those other teams get a point from France though, and we got beaten?
They did, yeah, they did. And I think, it's how the French are. A goal one way or the other, and it all of a sudden they're the kind of team that can crumble. So we weren't that far off.
Okay, what caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, as the guys have alluded to, especially Rich there, I mean, poor old Rasmus Schuller, I mean, he picked up that yellow card. I think there was only 2 minutes on the clock. And he's been playing superbly for club and country recently, and then that did sort of. I mean, obviously he's got to be careful for the rest of the game. You know, the last thing we need or he needs is a red card. So it did sort of take the wind out of his sails for a bit. I think he did manage to sort of shrug the panic of that yellow card off later on in the game, and we saw him sort of grow into it again as it went on. He was superb. But as far as the scoreline goes, Richard said the first goal from Anton Griezmann was an absolute belter, just spectacular. He's beat Huuhkajat, and I don't think you can criticise Huuhkajat. There's nothing he can do. It's just an absolutely world-class finish. But with the second goal, which again was another fantastic finish, we've got Uronen, who had been hobbling about for the best part of 5 or 6 minutes after a bit of a he went down under a bit of a rough challenge, and yeah, we could all see that he wasn't comfortable, and then the French sort of seemed to play on that and stick the ball down his side a couple of times, and he was hobbling about, and it was sort of him getting done on that side that led to their second goal. So I don't know. And then obviously moving on, we had the late penalty shout. Would have been, even if we had been a penalty, which I think, looking back at it, I truly believe it was a penalty. I mean, the ref, he didn't even go to VAR, or there wasn't any suggestion of VAR. He just sort of made his mind up, said that's your lot, and off we went. But
when I first saw it, Keke, I thought that I was always looking at the goalkeeper, and I was like, no, the keeper got the ball, but it was actually from the other side. Was it Pogba who clipped his foot? Yeah, exactly
that. Same as you. I thought, right, Lloris, he's got the ball, so there's no chance of it. But yeah, when you look at it, it is Pogba who clips him when he's just about to sort of pull the trigger. But ultimately, maybe that penalty would have been too little, too late. But I just think Uronen seemed to be looking over at the bench, saying, "Look, I'm injured. What are you going to do about it?" And it seemed to take him a bit of a while to give him the old sub signal. So I don't know.
Well, I think, not so much about the bench, but we've got to talk about the ref, because I thought he had an absolute shocker. The Schuller card, I think at the start was probably an old school reffing style to try and send a message. He absolutely bottled the penalty decision because he didn't even check VAR, as everybody was talking about. And yeah, it's a big ask, but you grab a penalty against France in the 89th minute with then 7 minutes of stoppage time going up on the board. It's not nothing, right? That's a long old time. Yeah. For the French, and I think even for their second goal, in the build-up, I don't think it was 5 minutes. I think it was like a minute and a half. And the kid that did Uronen, he didn't really. It wasn't a free kick. It wasn't the kid. He never got brought up or brought back. And I think the ref was shoddy in multiple occasions.
Yeah, it's just that must have been Schuller's first sort of tackle or whatever, in the second minute of the game, and he's come for the yellow card away. Not even a waggly finger to say, "Come on, mate, we've just kicked off. Like, let's calm it down a bit." Straight away, one of them, bosh. So,
did you see the clip from the Huuhkajat game today as we were recording? With Ekanas against I think it's Groupama, and it was a fairly innocuous foul. Ref's gone to book the player and pulled a red card instead of a yellow, and the fella's face sort of melted, and then obviously the ref realised his mistake and produced the yellow. But yeah, it was one of those. It was, as Mark said, it was very much this ref trying to stamp his authority on the game, and it really did knock Schuller for a while. It was difficult, but yeah, it's that penalty. The VAR booth, wherever they are, should have been hammering that ref.
There's 5 guys in that team now. No, not one of them had a phone.
You mentioned Keke about some nice play down the left, and there has been this regular sort of appearance of this fine 1 and 2 touch, skillful interplay often down the left, but not just recently. In the last couple of years, I think it's part of the success that Finland have had getting, in the Nations League and qualifying for the Euros themselves. We didn't see it at the Euros, and that was one of the things I was most disappointed about, that the team never really got its attacking play together in the way that we know it can do. So it was good to see that the other day, and Uronen was good again, even if he wasn't, very complimentary about his own cross in the previous game, as you guys discussed. He's becoming a really, really important player there. And I have an issue that I have to deal with here in my own home, which is people in my house don't appreciate Glenn Kamara. I don't get it. I had this from Mrs. W a year or so ago, and I sort of pointed out to her all of his kind of attributes, the winning the ball, the keeping the momentum going, and then occasionally a driving run, and maybe every couple of games this bit of dancing skill where he gets past players by sort of dancing around the ball and over the ball. And he did it again in the game against France. About 5 minutes after my stepson had said to me, I don't think much of Kamara. He doesn't do much. And I was like, not you as well. We then explained to him all of Glenn Kamara's attributes, and then he did that little bit of ballet, and the boy shut up, which was good.
Basically, Mark, you need to change the locks, I think, because everyone you live with is talking. You might have to bleep this bit out, because he is just a fantastic footballer. I mean, like you said there, he's close control. The way he can turn the play. I mean, he'll receive it. He'll receive it on one foot, do a little pirouette, and then play it out the other side. He's getting stronger. He uses his body well now. He's not scared to get himself in there and use his body. He's a fantastic footballer, and and another decent, obviously on the back of a loss, but another decent display from him against France. Really, I mean, like Mark said, it's nice to see us line up and give it a go. Ultimately, we've got beat, but we've turned up there to have a go at them, and they're the world champions. You'd call it a free hit, the away game against France, wouldn't you? In that group. So the group still the way the other results went as well. The group's still pretty open for us. It wasn't a disaster losing 2-0 away. So I'm still pretty confident.
No, you're right. It's been so many draws that it's really tight for all the other teams, really, isn't it? So
it is. Just for the last bit for Glenn, you might want to educate your family on what the French took him seriously. Every time he strode forward into the French half, they had one or two guys really close to him, and I think that's also something that it might not come across on the telly, but when you watch him play, almost every opponent is on him as fast as they can to close him down. And I think he's quite good at sort of keeping possession and recycling the ball, maybe backwards or sideways. But he gets put under more pressure than any other Finland player on the pitch. Usually,
yeah, true. So we've got to do all this again in about 3 weeks' time. There's another set of international games coming up. Are there two fixtures in that week though?
Yeah. So on
no
the
dopey friendlies coming up.
No, not in this one. No, 9th of October, it's Finland at home to Ukraine. Huge game. Schuller's banned for that one after his yellow, but that's now become the crunch game in the group. Ukraine are ahead of Finland, but they've drawn all 5 or 6 of their group games so far. Yeah. So they haven't lost, unbeaten, but they haven't won either. Finland are 1 point. They're actually level on points. They're behind on goal difference. So if Finland managed to win that game, that really gives them the advantage going into the 3 games left. So then they're away to Kazakhstan after that a couple of days later before we go into November's fixtures. So it's a really tight group. I think of the 12 matches so far, there have been 8 draws. And I mean, this goes to show how people were distracted during the France game when it was injury time, and half the Finns were watching it moaning about VAR, and the other half were watching Kazakhstan get a 96-minute equaliser against Bosnia, and suddenly become Kazakhstani or Kazakh for the evening. It was, Kazakhstan really are mixing things up. I mean, they're no mugs, and Finland's win against them obviously vital when you look back with hindsight.
And we had some sort of positive feedback about the shows that we did around these games. Some shorter shows, but more regular to keep them topical. So we'll do that, and we'll be back for those games. But Keke, if there are people out there desperate for a bit of Finnish international football before the next round of World Cup qualifiers, what's coming up?
Well, yeah, it's not just about the Huuhkajat. The Helmarit are playing. They've got a World Cup qualifying match coming up on next Tuesday? Tuesday, the 21st of September. Against they're at home to Slovakia. So that's a qualifying match for the upcoming Women's World Cup. So
is it just one game? They're not doing sort of double games or anything?
Just the one fixture. The one fixture coming up. But yeah, they currently looking forward to that. I mean, the group's made up of Georgia, Ireland, Slovakia, and Sweden. So there's going to be one or two half decent games in there. But kicks off against Slovakia next Tuesday. So yeah, the squad's already together training. They had their first training session today. So Palolito and the Helmarit sort of socials were sending out some pictures and videos of the girls getting their training on. So obviously we wish them luck, and we'll get together and maybe have a little chat through that game once it's done.
Yeah, I guess maybe in a couple of weeks' time we should do a Finnish football show episode about Veikkausliiga, what's been going on there, and we can look back at these Helmarit games and then try and do our kind of quicker previews and match reaction shows around the Huuhkajat games. But I think for this episode, that's pretty much it. Delighted that Mark Hayton managed to stay with us for the whole show. So we'll say ta-da, Mark. Goodbye.
My fingers are burning, and I'm also off to Kufka for an interview.
Okay.
Cheers.
And to you, Rich, thanks a lot. Bye.
Hey.
And to Keke.
Moro.
And that's it. Until next episode of Finnish Football Show. Bye-bye.